Hey guys, today I bring you a powerful and transformative story, Elowen Grace Fairchild, a young mother who, in 1974, faced a near-death experience during a day that began with joy and ended in a breathtaking episode. She returned with an urgent warning to humanity about November 11th, carrying a message that defies understanding and awakens the need for unity and faith. Get ready, because what she witnessed on the other side will leave you speechless. My name is Elowen Grace Fairchild, and I never imagined that one day I would be here, sharing an experience that shook the foundations of my very existence. I was 27 years old in 1974 and living in Stockton, California. Being a single mother to a 6-year-old boy named Liam was my greatest source of joy, and at the same time, a constant reminder of my responsibilities. Life wasn't easy, but I always looked for little ways to remind myself that I was still alive and free, even if for a few moments. That's how, on a hot July day, I accepted an invitation from my best friend, Rachel Whitaker, to spend a day skiing in the Sacramento River Delta. The Delta had always been a special place for me, with its sparkling waters and promise of adventure. I could hear Rachel and the other friends laughing as I prepared to grab the bar of the water ski. She smiled and shouted from the boat, "Elowen, you were born for this. Show them what you can do." I laughed, feeling a sweet nervousness in my stomach, and gave a thumbs up in response. I felt the boat's engine roar, the tension in the rope pulling on my arms, and suddenly I was skimming the surface of the water. The wind whipped my face, washing away any thoughts of late bills or daily fears. Everything was freedom, pure ecstasy. However, this feeling was short-lived. A sudden flaw in my movements caused me to lose my balance. The water, which was once my ally, became a cold and merciless enemy. I fell hard, and the ski rope, in a cruel twist of fate, wrapped itself around my left arm. Before I could scream or react, I was pulled away with a violence I had never felt before. The world became a chaos of foam, pain, and darkness. I could hear Rachel scream my name, but her voice sounded distant, muffled by the water that invaded my nose and mouth. Everything became a blurry mess, and for a moment I thought this would be the end. Not like this, I thought, fighting the rising panic. But before he could react, something changed. A strange, unfamiliar calm began to spread through my body, even as pain still screamed through every nerve. It was at that moment that reality split in two, and I found myself outside of myself, observing what was previously just my body fighting for life. The heat of that July afternoon had become a distant memory as I watched myself being swept away by the water. The ski rope, once just an instrument of amusement, had become a cruel bondage on my left arm. The impact of the water was like 1,000 knives, and each time my body submerged and resurfaced, a new blow hit me with more force. The feeling of suffocation was relentless. The water entered my nose and mouth, choking my lungs and making my vision blurry. From the boat, Rachel realized too late what was happening. I remember hearing his voice whine a high-pitched, desperate scream. "Elowen, stop the boat, she's under arrest." But the message took a while to be understood. The engine was still roaring, the boat was moving forward, and I was still trapped, being thrown around like a helpless doll. My world became a blur of pain, despair, and helplessness. I felt my muscles stretched to their maximum, a deep burning invading my left arm as the rope cut into my skin. My mind entered a state of absolute panic, and a dark thought lodged itself within me. Is this how I'm going to die? But it was at that deepest point of pain and despair that something unexpected happened. An instant of silence cut through the agony like a blade. Everything stood still, as if time had stopped. A feeling of warmth and lightness enveloped me, like an invisible blanket. Suddenly, the sound of water and screams disappeared, and an indescribable peace came over me. I saw myself from above, hovering over the chaotic scene. Below, my body was being thrown from side to side, still tied by the rope, with my hair spread like a cloud around my head. Rachel leaned over the edge of the boat, her face contorted in horror and despair. Other friends ran around the deck, shouting orders and moving frantically. The strangeness of seeing myself outside my body brought a calm that defied logic. The pain, the suffocation, and the fear were gone, and what was left was a serene clarity. I was floating, intangible, watching from a vantage point that defied explanation. Is this what it's like to die? I thought. But there was no fear in the question, just curiosity. I floated higher, while the riverbank and the boat with terrified friends became smaller and smaller, until the scene disappeared completely. The soft darkness began to envelop me, and with it, a warmth that reminded me of a mother's embrace. It was familiar, as if I had been there before, at some point beyond human memory. As the darkness enveloped me, I realized it was not an absence of light, but a deep, welcoming presence. It was as if I was being rocked by an invisible force that knew me better than I knew myself. The tunnel I moved through had no walls, but a texture of shadow and warmth that made me feel safe. There was something familiar there, like an echo of an old memory I couldn't access. Is this the end? I thought. But again, the question carried no fear, only acceptance. My worries, my fears, everything seemed to dissolve in this space. Liam, my son, came to mind for a brief moment. I imagined his mischievous smile, the way he ran around the house with his little feet tapping on the wooden floor. A flash of sadness touched me. Will he be okay without me? But before I could sink into this anguish, a new sensation took me over. A point of light appeared in front of me, slowly growing larger. The closer I got, the more I realized that this light carried something beyond its brightness. There was heat, but not physical heat. It was a warmth that seemed to fill every corner of my existence, something that caressed my being with an indescribable softness. The darkness dissolved, and suddenly I found myself in a field of flowers. The colors were so intense that I couldn't compare them to anything I had ever seen. Reds, blues, yellows, and shades that defied reality itself. The flowers seemed alive, and as I touched one of them, a soft melody, like a whisper, echoed around me. I was in the middle of this field, feeling a peace that seemed unattainable on earth. Elowen, a soundless voice called me. It was as if the air itself had whispered my name. I turned around and realized that the field extended to the horizon, but something else caught my attention. A vast universe revealed itself beyond the flowers. Stars, galaxies, and nebulae, all dancing in silent, perfect harmony. I felt like I was part of that dance, that every atom in me was one with those stars. The feeling was of absolute belonging. I know this place, I thought, even without knowing how. And it was at that moment that a presence appeared beside me, an energy so powerful that it seemed to radiate the very essence of the universe. The presence that had appeared at my side was overwhelming, but it did not inspire fear. It was a figure composed of a bright and welcoming light. For a moment, I hesitated, staring at that being who, even without a human face, seemed to have eyes that penetrated directly into my soul. It was as if everything I had ever been, everything I thought and felt was being revealed and welcomed with unconditional love. I looked back and saw the scene I had just left. My body was floating lifelessly, dragged by the ski rope, while Rachel and the others ran in despair on the boat. The look of horror on her face was something he would never forget, even after that experience. They think they lost me, I thought, a mixture of sadness and acceptance washing over me. But interestingly, it didn't scare me. I felt a deep calm, an understanding that everything was exactly as it should be. The luminous figure next to me didn't move, but the energy around us seemed to communicate a message. Without a single word being said, I realized I was being asked, "Are you ready to move on?" The question reverberated in my being, like a choice that I already knew, but whose answer needed to be confirmed there. At that moment, I stopped to think about Liam once again. His little face, his curious eyes, and the way he cuddled up to me before going to sleep, murmuring in a sleepy voice, "Good night, Mom." It was because of him that I felt such a strong connection with the world of the living. Despite the immense peace I felt at that moment, something inside me refused to turn off completely. "I can't leave you," I thought. The being of light seemed to understand. I felt a wave of warmth and compassion spread through me, as if my desire to remain was being honored and accepted. I looked once again at the universe around me, so vast and beautiful that it was almost unbearable in its grandeur. In the midst of that peace and unity with all that existed, I understood a simple and powerful truth. Life was not just what we know on earth. It was something bigger, more encompassing, and death was just a passage, a transition point on an ongoing journey. The realization that I had a choice gave me a new perspective, and although part of me wanted to remain there, in that infinite light and peace, the other part, the part that was a mother, that loved and cared, knew that I still had a path to fulfill on earth. As I contemplated the choice before me, I felt a gentle tug, a pull that took me back to the beginning of my out-of-body journey. The field of vibrant flowers and the cosmos began to disappear, and in their place, the familiar darkness returned, surrounding me with a welcoming presence. The tunnel, which he now perceived more clearly, was not just a path. He felt alive, pulsing with an energy that spoke directly to my soul. The silence was absolute, but somehow, it seemed to resonate with a melody that I couldn't identify, but that awakened memories of a time beyond my earthly life. I know this place, I thought, and a gentle warmth ran through my ethereal body. It was as if I was returning to a forgotten home, a place that had always existed in some hidden corner of my being. As I moved through that tunnel, I realized that every step I took, or perhaps it would be more accurate to say every thought I formed, pushed me forward. It was a space where time did not exist like it did on Earth. Everything was simultaneous, past, present, and future, coexisting in a tangle of meanings that I was only beginning to understand. Elowen, the voice of the being of light, echoed in a way that was not auditory, but felt. It was a calling that attracted me and invited me to move forward. I felt my heart, or what felt like my heart, throb in response. Am I ready? I wondered, but the question was put aside as a new vision revealed itself at the end of the tunnel. Suddenly, the darkness began to dissipate, giving way to a warm, golden light that enveloped everything. The feeling of familiarity grew even stronger, and with it, a deep understanding. I had been there before, not once, but many times. It was as if that crossing was a constant in my spiritual journey, something that we all repeat at different times in our existence. For a moment, a series of images flashed through my mind, familiar faces, places and moments in life that I thought I had forgotten. This is what we are, I noticed, a quilt of memories and experiences that intertwine to form the essence of who we are. The tunnel, then, seemed to whisper these truths, like a silent guide that showed me that death was not a rupture, but a continuity. And so, before I completely exited that tunnel, I was enveloped by a wave of certainty and acceptance. The fear of leaving the world he knew behind was replaced by the realization that he was returning to something much greater. But even so, I knew that this was not yet my time to leave forever. As soon as I left the dark tunnel behind, I was greeted by an explosion of colors and lights that surpassed anything my mind could conceive. It was in a vast field of flowers, but these were no ordinary flowers. Every petal, every leaf, seemed to glow with a color that defied earthly logic. There were shades of red, blue, and yellow, but they were so intense and vibrant that they seemed to have a life of their own, as if they were pulsing with the essence of the universe itself. I walked through the field, feeling a peace that permeated every part of my being. When my fingers touched one of the flowers, a soft, harmonious sound filled the air around me. It was as if the touch awakened a hidden melody, and each step I took created a new chord, composing a symphony of peace and love. I had never experienced anything so profoundly beautiful and immersive. Where am I? I asked myself, but the answer was not necessary. I knew, on some level, that this was a place between worlds, a place where the spirit rested and replenished before moving on. The flowers swayed gently, as if aware of my presence, and a deep warmth embraced me. I felt part of something bigger, something infinite and eternal. I suddenly realized that the flower field wasn't the only scenery around me. Beyond the horizon of colors, a vast universe revealed itself. Stars twinkled and danced in patterns that seemed to compose ancient stories, and galaxies moved slowly, as if accompanying the melody created by my footsteps. The vastness of the cosmos was overwhelming, but in a way that made me feel like I belonged, connected to every particle of light and shadow. As he observed the universe, a familiar presence made itself felt again. It was as if a gentle breeze filled with ancient knowledge passed through me, and I knew that the being of light was there, even if it was still invisible. There was a calling, a silent invitation for me to open my heart and mind to the truth that was about to be revealed. Elowen, the voice came from everywhere and nowhere, filling me with a mixture of curiosity and serenity. I looked around and saw that the flowers were bowing slightly, as if they also heard and revered that voice. There was a message coming, something I knew was important, something that would transcend my earthly understanding. As the call echoed through my being, I looked beyond the field of flowers to the vast universe that stretched out before me. It was a vision that captured infinity itself. Stars twinkled and danced in patterns that seemed to tell stories, and spiral galaxies slowly rotated, enveloped in a veil of cosmic dust that glowed with a soft, welcoming light. The feeling of peace that invaded me was something I had never felt on Earth. It was an absolute peace, which dissolved any trace of fear, doubt, or pain. My thoughts expanded in all directions, and I realized that I was not just observing the universe, but also a part of it. I am this, I realized, feeling a wave of understanding spread through my being. Every star, every particle of light, is part of me, just as I am part of them. This connection was both simple and complex, like a truth that had always been there, but that I was only now able to understand. Suddenly, I felt a presence next to me. The being of light that I'd only felt before became visible. He was not completely human in form, but he had eyes that glowed a deep blue and a gray beard that conveyed wisdom and calm. His gold and green robes sparkled, as if they were made of starlight itself. He looked at me with an intensity that wasn't judgmental but loving, and he communicated without using words. Elowen. His voice resonated inside me, clear and soft, like a melody I had known for a long time. Do you see now what always was and always will be? The words, or what I understood to be words, carried an overwhelming truth. Life on Earth was just a fraction of what we really are. The entire human experience, with its pains, joys, mistakes, and achievements, was part of a much greater journey. My eyes filled with tears, but not with sadness. It was a cry of acceptance and recognition. Try, I replied, without moving my lips. I understand. The being of light nodded slightly, and a new wave of warmth and love enveloped me. It was as if every star in the universe was hugging me, conveying the message that I was never alone, that no one ever was. The peace I felt at that moment was so absolute that for a moment I forgot everything I had left behind. I forgot the pain, the fear, even the image of Liam. Everything dissolved into a sense of togetherness and belonging. This is what it means to be eternal, I thought, and the response was a silence full of understanding. But it is not yet time for you to remain here. The voice of the being of light brought me back from my contemplation. There was something more I needed to understand, and that message was about to be delivered. The light around us seemed to shine brighter, and I knew something big was about to be revealed. The being of light came even closer, and a feeling of familiarity and deep respect came over me. His sparkling blue eyes seemed to contain the cosmos itself, while his gray beard and gold and green robes gave him an air of majesty and wisdom. There were no words exchanged in a traditional way. The communication was telepathic, like a thought that crossed my mind and lodged directly in my soul. Elowen, do you remember why you chose to come to Earth? The question echoed inside me, awakening a series of memories and emotions. For a moment, fragmented images flashed before my eyes. The difficult childhood, the struggles and victories, and the unconditional love I felt for Liam. Everything made sense in a larger context, as if each moment of pain and overcoming had been an essential step in a much broader journey. I chose? I asked, and the answer came like a wave of understanding. Yes, my soul had chosen that life, with all its pains and joys, to learn, grow, and connect with the lessons of love and compassion. The presence of the being radiated an energy that filled me with previously unknown certainties. I was there, in that place between worlds, but my mission on Earth was not yet complete. The light around us seemed to pulse, and the being of light looked at me with an intensity that conveyed both urgency and tenderness. You need to know, Elowen, November 11th will bring an important event, a call for humanity to unite in prayer and spiritual preparation. Something great is coming, and you need to be ready. These words impressed themselves on my being as an undeniable truth. The date, November 11th, echoed in my mind like a distant bell, a date that now carried significant weight. The message wasn't just a warning, it was a summons. It was a reminder that although life on Earth may seem separate, everything is interconnected, and moments of spiritual transition require strength and unity. But what will happen? I asked, feeling the tension build in my chest. The being's response was an eloquent silence, as if specific knowledge could not or should not be revealed. But he conveyed something even deeper: spiritual preparation, Unity and prayer are the ways to face what is to come. Remember, Elowen, love and faith are the keys you carry. I felt the light around me intensify and hot tears ran down my face, even though I was outside my physical body. The vastness of the universe seemed closer and more alive, as if creation itself was listening to that message. The responsibility of returning and sharing what I had learned was beginning to weigh on me, but it also gave me strength. With a last look full of understanding and encouragement, the being of light began to walk away, still radiating its welcoming presence. I knew the choice to return to Earth would be mine, but the message and mission were now clear. The words of the being of light reverberated in me like a continuous echo. The warning about November 11th carried a meaning that transcended anything I could have understood before. I felt a new urgency, a responsibility placed upon me not just as a reminder, but as a sacred mission. The universe around me seemed to vibrate in unison with this truth, and I knew that the experience I had just had was much more than a simple glimpse of the beyond. It was a call to action. Why me? I asked mentally, not expecting a direct answer. However, the being of light, which was still present in a faint way, communicated something that sounded like a smile in my mind. Because each soul has a role, you have returned to remind humanity of the essence of love and unity. The responsibility was heavy, but at the same time it brought a sense of purpose and clarity. The images of the field of flowers, the cosmos and the being of light began to blend together, as if they were part of a memory that I was destined to take back with me. The tunnel that once welcomed me now reappeared, this time shining with a golden light that radiated warmth and safety. I realized that the time to decide was close. Before the vision of the universe completely dissipated, I saw one last image, a temple of light. He stood imposingly, surrounded by beings in white robes who studied in an environment of serenity and infinite wisdom. Knowledge seemed to flow there like a river of light, and I understood that this was a place of eternal learning, where souls prepared and renewed themselves. I knew that if I crossed this barrier, there would be no going back. But it's not my time yet, I thought, feeling a mixture of relief and determination. The voice of the being of light, now more distant, repeated, "Remember, Elowen, love and faith are the keys. Come back and share this truth." The message seemed engraved in every particle of my being, like a melody that could not be forgotten. The date, November 11th, shone in my mind like a guiding star, a constant reminder of what was to come. The tunnel light began to gently pull me in, and I felt my ethereal body move toward its entrance. One last look at the universe and the temple of light confirmed that my journey there, at that moment, was coming to an end. The feeling of peace and belonging still accompanied me, but now it came along with the certainty that I needed to return to love, to guide, and to remind everyone that life on Earth was just one part of the eternal journey. As the light of the tunnel enveloped me, I felt my being draw once again closer to the reality I had left behind. The vision of the field of flowers, the pulsating universe, and the temple of light began to fade, being replaced by a soft, welcoming darkness. The decision to return was mine, and although the peace of that place was something I had never experienced before, something stronger called me back. The love for Liam and the understanding that my mission was not yet complete. "Elowen, you know why you must return," the voice of the being of light whispered inside me. There was no sadness in the parting, just a loving acceptance. I felt tears of emotion flow, even without my physical body present. I understood, at that moment, that my experience needed to be shared, that the message of unity and prayer I received needed to reach other hearts. The date of November 11th was more than a warning. It was a turning point for all of us. I began to move through the tunnel, guided by a gentle, steady force. I could feel the connection between my spirit and my body intensifying. The gentle sound of water became audible again, and with it, Rachel's screams and the commotion in the boat. My spiritual vision began to blend with physical reality, and suddenly, I felt the density of my body once again. The pain and difficulty breathing hit me with shocking intensity. But now, I was back. I woke up coughing and choking, with Rachel kneeling beside me, tears streaming down her face. "Elowen, thank God you're back," she sobbed, holding my hand tightly. Other friends approached, relieved and scared. As I tried to process what had just happened, I looked around. The sun was still shining in the sky, but I knew something in me had changed forever. I took a deep breath, feeling life in my lungs, and a soft smile formed on my lips. I went back, I whispered, but the phrase carried a much greater meaning. I came back not just to live, but to share, to remind everyone that life is a school, and that love and faith are the only certainties we carry with us. In the days that followed, I gathered my thoughts and began to tell my experience. First to Rachel, who sat silently, absorbing every word. "We need to prepare," I told her. "What I saw, what I was told, November 11th is important. We cannot forget." And so, the message I received began to spread, like a seed planted in hearts ready to grow and blossom in a world that, although full of challenges, still had hope and connection. If you liked this beautiful spiritual testimony, leave a like, comment on your impressions, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to activate the notification bell to watch each new video and help us spread this message to a greater number of people. Until next time.